has really broad emotional shoulders. He's able to just let all that stuff sink down into the ground. He's also a nurturing energy. People who have that earth energy tend to lead people better than the town. People also lean on you a little bit. They recognize that earth energy and they kind of soak that stuff.
Roommate's wondering why I'm out here, not knowing him at home.
Well, he should have asked me. You didn't have something more important going on.
Yes. Or he could have come with me, but he didn't.
What do you got back here? I saw y'all looking.
I don't see either one of them.
Parking lot.
It's my first time ordering a PA, so I was asking him if he knows how to check it or turn it on.
A little bit of.
No, baby, you're good.
So let's see what you like using.
Okay. Fifi, Switchblade, and Dan Block, and Amber Eye.
Okay, so you're gonna do, Fifi. I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna come out and introduce us. We're gonna introduce. As soon as you say I'm Michelle, then you say we had a great show for you tonight.
As soon as we introduce ourselves, I introduce Amber Eye and Fifi, Switchblade, and Dan Block.
And then I'll start with.
Just don't forget to carry this around with you when you need to move around to talk to people.
Okay, carry
I
this
have the
around.
shotgun mics picking them up and them up right now. But when you go talk to them,
When the band talks, they can talk on the microphone, right? Okay.
so there you have.
So right now we don't need this.
You don't need that, but when you start to walk around and do things,
Michelle and Tammy, can I have you in a position for this one to double check?
Position. Get in the position.
Gavin, when we do the burlesque, is she going to be right here? Yes. Okay.
unless you want it right there, it's up to you.
Oh, she may not have room. That's why I was saying that's probably. Okay.
Remind me to stand up straight. Posture, please.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just missing an outlet for so just trying to, we're winging it. Thank you guys for your patience.
We will reach your power strip.
Was there one that was put back behind the curtain?
There's one behind the curtain.
I don't know. I don't know if that was on the table. There was something on the table.
By the way, headset's like, yeah.
Find out. Jason's last name. Okay. Randall, how do you pronounce Jason's last name? Oh, you're already here. Ancona. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, what's our intro? What's our intro? What's our intro? What's our intro? Let me see you.
I don't even know this again.
Or I'm Tammy, and this I'm Michelle. You're Tammy.
Remember, he wants us to be.
And this is Austin. And this is Austin. We see you.
No, when we say Austin, we say it.
We up to no good.
Hi, Valerie.
All right. So, welcome to Austin. We see you.
Do we need to do a sound check?
First, we're going. Okay, how are we doing? I need to know how we're doing intro. Tammy, I really need to know how we're doing intro.
Oh, I want you to just take
Are we gonna say? Okay, are we gonna say?
Hi, Valerie.
Welcome to Austin. We see you. We have a.
Welcome to Austin.
I'm Tammy. I'm Michelle. We have a great show for you tonight. Okay.
Jeffrey,
Yeah.
hand him this power strip.
Because
Give me a
we
second.
did it, we introduced ourselves, and this is Austin. We see you before. We've done it back and forth. So I just want to know which way.
Yeah, as long as when I say I'm Tammy, and then, but I think we should both together go welcome to, or I can go welcome to, and then we both yell Austin, we see you. All right, guys.
3.5 minutes.
After we say welcome to Austin, we see you. If you guys would just
Go crazy.
be loud, go nuts, and then we'll start introducing who's here.
Fucking go nuts.
Terry, did you see this awesome audience?
I know.
And we also got
I live with most of these
the
people.
Texas Music Ranch is here. We got big support.
Everyone, Jeffrey, I'm your stage director for the night. Thank you so much for coming here. Just so you guys know, we will have a camera on you at times. You'll see yourself over here on the TV. If you are going to take pictures, flashes are okay. We ask you do silence your cell phones during this time. Remember to smile because you will be on live television.
Have them sitting over here.
I can get them, but they
Yeah, because we're going to go to them first. We're going to Fifi and Dan first, right?
right now. I'll go.
Yes.
Well,
I'm introducing them.
yeah.
So am I going over there to introduce them, or just...
Oh, you be on this side then.
Okay. Am I going over there to introduce them? And what am I saying to them?
You'll just point over there, and here we have.
Okay.
Yeah,
Check,
I'm
check,
afraid
check.
we're gonna bring it.
Testing, mic check, 1, 2, mic check. Mic,
My feet's everywhere.
check 1,
Rubber band.
testing 2, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, check, check, check. Yeah, check, check. 1, 2,
In this
testing.
corner.
Mic check,
My
1, 2.
eyes still red.
No, they're fine. In this
It
corner.
still looks kind of. Yeah,
Mic check, 1, 2.
my allergies are bad.
Oh, so he takes a picture of the monitor because I'm acting a goofball.
I have a red eye from cedar.
I want in on this. I feel all
You
left out
forget
now.
who you're messing with.
Nobody grabbed my titties.
We're being recorded. I'm gonna pinch Jeffrey's titty.
Hi, where else do we see you? We pinched Jeffrey's titties.
This is the place where my eyes are so. Wow.
Okay, so I need a Spanx, emergency Spanx.
Check, check, check. Hey, everybody. Thank you for your patience.
How are we doing on time?
We have 1 minute.
Are we doing?
1 minute.
Let me get you three up here.
And we're gonna have them first, and then y'all are gonna play.
Over here, we'll have Jason. Or no, Jason will be right here. And then whichever actor, and then we'll sit between. Whichever chair, we can grab a piece of cake.
I almost threw up.
Fifi and Dan first,
Yes.
and then Emma.
And then we'll, after 8:15, then I'll come up. No, I'll let you come up and introduce.
I don't know what to say.
And then I'll introduce.
I don't know what to say.
This is our local band. Just, that's it. And the second time they go before, we're going to have them introduce.
2, 1. Hey.
All right, everyone, we have 30 seconds.
Give them candy.
Ready? Here we go. Welcome. We're going to go hi. Welcome to.
I had my gut.
It's candy, I'm sure. It's funny. I'm trying to eat it.
And we're live.
Hi, welcome to
Austin, we see you. You first.
I am Tammy.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and tonight we have Fifi, Switchblade, and Dan Block to put on a show for us. And we also have the musical stylings of Amber Eye up here behind us.
And we are going to have some actors and the producer director from the movie Tag Team Truckers.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a burlesque performance by
Lindsay LaPearl. She's
La
hiding in the
Pearl.
crowd. Lindsay. Lindsay LaPearl, people.
You'll see, yeah.
You'll see. You'll see.
Okay, and Michelle will take it away.
Well, first of all, we have Fifi and Dan Block over here. Fifi Switchblade, take it away. That's all I'm goofy. I'm such a soccer mom.
Today, so it's probably just gonna go okay. Now, everybody hates this, but pick a card. Not that one. Look at the card, memorize the card, show the world the card, but let me know when you're ready. My eyes are shut dramatically. You sure, everybody? Everybody got it?
Got it.
You guys sure?
Yeah.
If you don't memorize it, the magic part goes out the window. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll open my eyes. Here we go. Okay, oh, put it in, hide it. Okay, eyes are open. Okay, now say when while I'm doing this. No, while I'm doing it. No, together now. That one's over. Here we go.
Win.
Ah! All right, 3, 2, 1.
Win.
Fantastic. Put that there for me. Thank you. It's fine. I can do. We don't remember. It's fine. We can do this. We can do it. Now I'm gonna shuffle these like a child because no one said that I was good at this. Here we go. Hey, Fifi, what are you doing over there?
Just hanging out.
Oh, distraction. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did I drop something? I didn't see it. Oh! Well, what's this? It's a jar of peanuts. What
Why don't you go ahead and open that for me? Don't worry, it'll be nuts. Don't point it at me. What about this one? For a second there, we freaked out. That was crazy, right? I have terrible news. We are not magicians. Nope. I always wanted to be one, but I got tiny hands, and I can't hide stuff behind them. So, with that in mind, everything you are about to see is very real. What I and Fifi do is often called...
Gross?
Disgusting? That's the word. But with that in mind, have a good time. Now, I'll show you something a little bit more real, but in the event you're going to pass out, vomit, or throw up, go with the vomit sensation we all want to watch. Fifi, show them something real. Now, Fifi's going to remove her beautiful pearl necklace from her neck. Now what you going to do with it?
I'm gonna lick it like so.
In a moment. Don't get too excited. It gets worse. Now, a classic of American sideshow is called the human blockhead. It's when something's inserted inside the sinus cavity, directly back, which will go back about 4 inches.
Whoa!
Now, most people might know this, but your ears, nose, throat, all connected. So, you get something far enough back and know how to angle it, it can be even more disgusting.
Oh, this is so gross.
One at a time. One at a time.
Try that gag.
Oh, gag away. Professionalism is very important in sideshow. We appreciate applause when it gets disgusting.
It's a really loud pearl necklace.
Wow.
If you're over the age of 18, we actually don't care if you tried at home.
Yum.
Now, Fifi and I have been doing this for a very long time. I've learned a lot of very interesting things. One of those things I've learned is everybody has a hard line. For me, it's contortionist. Many people, they freak me out. For some people, it's that. But do you guys want to guess what nobody likes?
Snot.
No? Get your minds out of the gutter. No, it's when you puss with your eyes. I want to assure everybody here that no matter what happens next, I'm way more uncomfortable than you are. And here's
In my face. That's lovely. Mama must be proud.
Trade school's an option. Emos and night classes. That's what we call bringing the joke full circle. Makes me want to cry. Now, Fifi and I are going to show you folks one more thing relating to all the things that we do.
Yes.
Now, my name is the Amazing Face, Dan Block. Fifi Switchblade. We have a 3-legged dog sideshow. Now, when Fifi inserts an object into her sinus cavity, we call that blockheading. Because in 1929, when the creator Melvin Burkhart showed Robert Ripley of Ripley's Believe It or Not, Robert Ripley said, "Melvin, you're a blockhead," and so the act was born. So here, we have one 6-inch gutter spike. I let you guys touch it, but you can probably guess where I'm going to put it next. Now, where did you think I was going to put it next? Come to our private shows. Now, here we go. Now, the nail is inserted into the sinus cavity. It passes about 4 inches back, and it's resting about 1/4 inch from my brainstem. I know I've seen X-rays. Now, this is the blockhead again. You'll see this everywhere you go. What you won't see is someone take one of these. Oh! And a 10,000 volt stun gun. Hit the end of this nail. You folks are going to yell out, "Why?" I'm going to say, "I don't know." It'll be great. Here in front of the audience. Join me, Fifi. Oh, yes. No. I do take a knee for this because in the event that I do pass out, I don't want to die.
Call 911.
Everybody
It's
grounded.
not part of the show.
No, call an Uber. I don't have health insurance.
That's true.
We haven't done this in a little while.
It's been a while.
Hey.
Catch him.
Ready.
Oh, wait, one more thing. My hair is not going to poof out, my eyes are not going to spark. I am just tasing myself in the face for your entertainment.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks,
So,
kid.
with that in mind, one taser, one nail in my face. Well, kicking off the show. Where do we go from here? Maybe we'll talk about that.
We're trained professionals, sort of. It's okay. It's happened before. Oh man. How do I use this thing?
Is there a doctor in the house?
Oh shit. Hey. Oh, sorry. You should know how to use this. He's passed out. He's no. You're not gonna do it. Just show him how to use it.
Flip the switch up and push the button.
Yeah. Cool. He's fine. Red light television.
Shut up.
It's alive.
You want to touch it? Folks! Ow! My name is Dan Block, the Amazing Face. This is Fifi Switchblade with a three-legged dog sideshow.
Okay, we're gonna come over here and ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Do this. Okay, you already introduced one of your shows that you do together.
Yes.
What else do you guys do together?
We do 2 monthlies in town. The last Saturday of the month is usually the Barrel of Fun. It is the Alamo
Mueller?
Draft House at the Mueller location.
That one.
First Sundays of the month, we are at the Highball, which is the South Lamar Draft House location. That one's our favorite one. Is the Austin Menagerie. Make sure you come check it out.
7 to 9 p.m. and it's free.
Free.
Free. When is this
Free.
again?
First Sunday of every month. So
First
January
Sunday of
5th
every
is the last
month,
one.
and it's
Yes.
free.
7 to
I
9
like
p.m.
free.
Free. Both of our shows are free. So.
Free.
I'm a
Free.
cheapskate.
Free.
And we can find you guys on Facebook.
Three-Legged Dog Sideshow in the Austin Menagerie, as well as Instagram, same names. Also, my Venmo is Three-Legged Dog Sideshow.
So hint, hint.
We got you.
Three-legged dog sideshow. Thank you guys very
Thank
much.
you guys so much. I love you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. And now we have Amber I coming on to play for us for a little bit.
Let's give them a big welcome.
I'm so scattered.
Hey guys, how is everybody doing?
Yay!
There we go. We're Amber I. Just had a record come out, signed through Visionary Noise, Double Trouble Productions. Clint, lead guitar, backing vocals, Todd Brooks on drums, little old me, and John Horn on bass. Thank you for inviting us out. And we're just gonna go into it. Ready? Boys are always ready. So, burn the night. Sitting on the red rock.
We got weathered out one time, but here we are, December 3rd, beautiful day.
Yeah.
Go for the angel.
We have another song here. It's called "Go for the Angel."
Go for the angel.
This is a track off our album. It's called Holocaust Train. It's about good times at the Methadone Clinic.
Wow. Healing. It's about healing.
Happy story for the family.
Yes. Holocaust train.
Yeah. Ready? His boys are always ready. Holocaust train. It's 20
guys like to do another one?
One more.
No? Yeah.
Another.
Thank you very much. Next, it'll have the leather jacket up, sweaty. So alive? Yeah. End of the road, girl. Okay, one last. I'm gonna do end of the road, girl. Everybody had a friend like this. Too toxic, you had to let go. Clint's tooting up. It's pretty bad if you're a drunk person and you have to let go of another drunk person. Somebody's toxic in your life. Yeah. So.
Sorry, I gotta.
It's tuning up. Yeah, everybody's doing
That's
it.
dead air. Sorry about that.
Crickets.
End of the road, girl.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
one of you to introduce everybody, whichever one feels comfortable.
I'm Clint. Right. Okay. Well, back there on the drums, we have Todd. We have John. John. Stalwart in this town for as long as I can remember. We have my beautiful and talented, lovely wife, Amber. My name's Clint, and I do the arrangement. I'm sort of the traffic cop of the Idea Farm.
Hey, Clint.
appreciate you guys.
Do you guys have a show coming up, or do you have a CD, or where people can purchase?
We have CDs that we just recorded. We just recorded these CDs this past summertime. This past summertime, it's called "Along for the Ride." It's put out on Visionary Noise Records and distributed by Double Trouble Productions. Shout out to our Houston papas and mamas out there. We recorded the album this summer with our good friend Ralph Giron at his Bare Bones and Microphones home studio, and spent a lot of time on it and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we're real proud of it.
Nice.
Waterloo, end of the year, and all fine record stores as always, and also available for download or physical copies from DoubleTrouble.net Productions. Sorry, DoubleTroubleProductions.net.
And we will come back to you guys after an interview.
Okay.
So just hang on, and hopefully you'll have a few more songs ready for us.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, over here we have some handsome men that we're close to. Okay, we have the movie Tag Team Truckers, and Jason, you are the producer, director. Would you like to give us a little background
about the movie?
about the movie?
Yeah, so Tag Team Truckers, actually on the radio I heard an ad for Team Trucking. It was like Schneider Team Trucking. I thought, oh, that's kind of a fun idea to get two people that don't really get along forced into a situation. And it's kind of also borrowing or stealing from the idea that Stripes had. The two guys, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, see an ad for the Army, like, oh, let's join the Army. So that was kind of the catalyst to get the two brothers together, and then Randall plays the dad. But it's a family dramedy.
Might be louder.
A family dramedy about Michael's character Benny, who's trying to figure out what he wants to do. Do with his life. So let me pass it on to Michael. You can talk about the movie.
Yeah, you guys can give us a
I'm
little
much more
rundown about your
comfortable. I'm a
character.
writer behind the scenes.
Now, before
But I do want to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, before we actually talk about the movie, then
Okay.
we'll show the
Want to show a
trailer
clip now?
for it.
Oh,
But if you
okay,
want
great.
to say a few more words before.
Oh, I just wanted to say I didn't know it was bracelet night with the guys here. Randall
Oh,
has some
look at all
bling
this
on
artwork.
here, and as does
Wow.
Michael. So here you go.
Fancy.
Here's one you can borrow. Okay, before we get into, and I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a minute, we're going to show the trailer.
Well,
so
can
that
I
then we
introduce the
can
trailer real quick?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Because we need to make sure that some of the reviews on Amazon have let us know that it's not about trucking at all.
Yeah.
So it's about.
We can't afford the trucks. Come on.
Yeah. Big rigs cost a lot of money. So it's about a 20-something-year-old's journey to find himself, work his way through his family and his personal issues. So that's what the film's really about.
Awesome.
So we'll let you play the trailer now.
We'll let you play the
Let's
trailer
play the
now.
trailer.
Take it away.
Familiar to you? Get out.
Short day of work. Last day.
Interesting resume here. See, you have a lot of colors, infographics. You added an emoji.
Yeah.
If you want a job that offers adventure, great pay, and the ability to travel this country, you should give us a call today.
We should totally do this.
Yes.
So, what are you looking for in a role here?
I don't know. I love dogs, sunglasses, t-shirts, a bunch of random stuff, really. I love garage sales.
Sales. Okay, good.
The whole point of this is to see if we can work together before we spend $3 grand on our CDLs.
Hey, we're with Flashbat. We have a delivery for you.
Need to get your signature.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm not signing nothing. You don't have my signature. Think about pornography.
Start for the trailer.
We can just reenact the trailer.
Okay.
There you go.
Go.
So while we're waiting, I guess there is a trailer about a box.
Yeah, I want to know what's in the box.
What's in the box? And of
What's
course,
in the box?
introduce yourself.
I'm Michael Morford. I play Benny, who's the main character in our movie, and he's just kind of your very experimental, doesn't know exactly what's going on in his life, kind of typical millennial, trying to figure out what he wants to do. So we decide before we get our CDLs, pay all the money for the CDLs, we decide to do what's called Flashbat, which is our movie world's version of Favor. And so we are going to pick up some medications for somebody's nana, their grandma. And I promise there's just, you know, good old regular medication for grandma in the box.
Heart medicine.
Now, it's just like you don't buy porn for yourself, but you buy it for others.
Yeah, exactly.
See that line?
That line.
Yeah, you know, we do have to visit a sex shop to purchase some
adult toys.
For
now everybody's got to see it.
adult
What
toys.
kind of favors are y'all doing?
For one of our customers, you know, it comes through on the app. We don't ask questions. We just buy the adult toys, play with them.
So you had to go to a store, somebody ordered it, and you had to go pick it up and deliver it?
Yeah, so you can order anything you want off of this Flashbat app, and we go and we pick it up, and then we deliver it to the house. So. Yeah.
Sounds fun. Okay, now we've got Randall Oliver. Tell us about your character.
Well, I play Pops in this movie, and Pops is kind of concerned that his boys are. One of them is doing really well, and seems
Is
to
that
have
not you?
No,
no, that's
not him. Seems to have his life together pretty well, and that's good because the younger one needs him. He needs him when he's struggling, and of course, Dad's in the middle of everything. And I'd like to mention that this family is like an East Coast Italian background type family. They so I play. Dad has an East Coast mob style. Little bit of an accent that goes along with it. I can't seem to get films anymore where I can do my own voice. I've got to always do an accent. But anyway, he's kind of in the middle of a lot of things that are going on. There's a lot of diversity in this movie.
It sounds like a lot of trouble.
And I have a daughter who's experimenting with some certain things in it, and she's off to college. And I've got a guy here that can't quite find himself, but he's trying really hard. And thank God, you know, Dad is pretty stable, and the older brother's pretty stable. So, but I also have lost my wife in this movie, and so I'm kind of on my own, and I kind of depend on the kids, and I want them to come for Thanksgiving, and the holidays is important to me, and that's pretty much what Dad's all about. He's going through some transitional things in his life too. So
you're and then he's coming. So everybody's getting together to try to find themselves, basically, or find out.
Everyone's kind of got a problem, and
you got a problem, like every family. They're all trying to fix it.
They all stick together.
Sounds like mine.
Really close as a family, but just pretty much like the. You know, the way things are today, you know, everybody's is doing different things, and even with those different things that they're doing in their life, they still manage to stay together as a family and love each other and support each other no matter what. So it's a really it's a funny movie, and there's some really good scenes in it, and I encourage everyone to go on Amazon if you're looking for, you know, something serious but also, you know, a good little comedy outlet. There's a lot of funny moments in this movie too, but it was an eye-opener to me. I think I was typecast.
Well, I know the last time I think we interviewed you, you had mentioned the movie, and we may have had a trailer at that point we showed, so we have like talked about it or something, because I think he just finished it and he was talking about it. So I had heard him mentioning it, pictures and everything, so like, oh, everyone's local, or whoever's local, you know, come on down.
How long has it been out on Amazon?
So it's been like almost 2 months about.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so it's free on Prime to watch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's been a year in the
Like
festival
free.
circuit, you know, you're pounding the pavement for the festival.
Yeah, we started shooting in 2016, but we were shooting, you know, weekends and nights, and we had so many life events come up where things got postponed, and yeah, we did a festival run for a year, and it's been about 3 years since it all came together. I just want to give a shout out to our cinematographer, Michael Rogers.
Very awesome.
Without
awesome.
Yeah, and then also Scott Dean played Michael's brother. He did an awesome
Scott,
job too.
my other son. And you've got a couple more projects that are out right now. You've just had one, as you heard tonight, that didn't quite make Sundance.
Yeah, as I was walking in here, I got the rejection from Sundance. It's a short film I shot called The Monarch Guild, which is it's only a 9-minute short, but it's a proof of concept for a TV pilot I've rewritten like, you know, a million times the past 2 years. It's about a group of nerds who run kind of like a clandestine agency in high school. Kind of like the advanced placement A team, and so they, you know, they have secret meetings in the theater, and so trying to get that out there and get that read. I'm actually going to Los Angeles this weekend. It's going to be playing in a film festival out there. So
Hollywood Film Festival?
It's Culver
LA.
City Film Festival.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I saw that announcement. I saw you post it.
He's one hell of a writer, though.
So,
I mean,
well, thank you,
and a
Randy.
great director. He's so easy to work with.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
You're so easy to work with. Anybody can put up with my Italian accent has got to be. Yo, what are you doing over here?
It was a great time, and just casting. I remember auditioning for the first, the role of Michael. I think you were the last one I auditioned. I just was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to start from scratch. And he was the last one, and he knocked it out of the park. And then for the dad, I didn't find anyone that day, and I kept looking and looking. It took me a long time, and I finally found Randall, and he was awesome. So it's fun to see people.
We did a Skype audition.
Yeah, Skype audition. It's fun to work with talented people that make the project better. So I really appreciate that.
So when you two work together, like he played your dad, the son, do you get that kind of connection? Like even when you finish with the movie, like, oh, that was my dad. Do you really get into that personality, that character, I guess?
Absolutely. I mean, when I walked into the studio today, he almost knocked me off my feet giving me a hug.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's,
I saw that earlier.
that type of rapport that you build on set, it's not a dad, but, someone that you care about and you love, and someone you want to make sure that you support them, whatever they do. And so I feel like our whole cast and crew, we're all in that together. So we're all very supportive of each other. We want everyone to do well. So.
And the ones who played my daughter and her.
Yeah, Victoria and Anna Claire.
They
were
were
awesome
just
as well.
awesome. Everybody worked so well together, all the way down to the bit players. The bit players were so dedicated. It's an independent film, and you got to love what you're doing to do independent film. It takes a lot of hard work and a collaborative
Dedication.
effort.
Let's talk about some of your project. You're on a project with Kevin Sorbo that's coming up. Or you're
wow.
Yeah, I've been cast as the grandfather in a movie called Not Too Far From Here, and it's a domestic violence film, and it'll come out when it premieres in 2020 during Domestic Violence Month. And Kevin Sorbo is just signed on as the director, and he's also going to do a small role in it as well. So I'm eagerly awaiting getting out to Branson, Missouri to shoot that film. It's going to be a really good.
And Michael, are you allowed to talk about Better Call Saul or not really?
Better Call Saul. You in Better Call Saul?
Okay. No, we're not.
Don't worry, son. You'll be okay. Don't worry. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
No, I can't. Can we edit that out?
This is live.
Like,
Okay, I didn't know.
No, that's serious. Like,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that. My bad.
Back it up. Beep. It's gone.
Can we edit that?
Black bar.
Or are we live?
We're live.
Okay.
Oh crap.
10,000 viewership.
Cool. Look at that performance. That's an awesome performance.
Are you kidding me? I feel
I'm scared to death right now.
Nobody's gonna tell.
Okay.
We won't.
Cool.
We won't tell.
It's tough acting. And then you're like, do you have
So
this
yeah,
to-
no, I
Let's
don't know
talk
what to say.
about some other things.
Do you have anything else going on?
So I have a movie out called Virgin Cheerleaders in Chains. It is
What kind of movie?
So it is a kind of a campy horror movie. It's extremely meta. It was all shot here in Austin. It's a local writer. His name's Gary, and he wrote the script, and it won Best Script at New Orleans Film Festival.
Wow.
And so then a Brazilian director who was also there loved it, and so it's a kind of co-production between a Brazilian horror film studio and then Austin actors. So it's a really cool conglomeration between a lot of Brazilian crew and the Austin crew, and it's on Amazon as well right now. I think you can rent it for $1.99 or $2.99. I think it's a really great campy horror movie if you're into horror films.
Is that like kind of a throwback 80s type?
Yeah, so it's like 70s grindhouse horror type
Nice,
movie.
that's
Yeah,
my
and it's
favorite.
super meta. And
You have a fun accent in that one, don't you?
yeah, I play a rich white kid who thinks he's Rastafarian, and he sells a bunch of weed to get the film that they're making, the horror film that we're making that gets turned into a horror film. I sell the weed to fund it. So
thanks.
Nice.
All right, you guys have just cracked it. Is there anything else, other film you would like to talk about?
Yeah, one more. It's a you know, we got it's a very strong independent filmmaker scene here in Austin, and I've been working with a director by the name of Christian Russo, and it's been a couple of years in post as well, but it's a movie called No Loss, No Gain. Has a lot of good strong local actors involved in it as well, and John Valley stars in it, and it's a really good film. We should be premiering sometime in the spring in the film festival circuit, and then it'll probably sit there for a year until it goes into distribution. But good outfit to work with there. So that's and I got a western out right now called No Man's Land. You guys can get that on Amazon. I play a bad outlaw character called Simeon Radcliffe in it, and I kind of like the westerns.
Now, I recall watching, what is it when you have the little robot and they're watching the film and they're making
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I recall seeing you on that.
Yeah.
You were like punching him.
You were on Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Yeah.
That's like my favorite show growing up. So my dad and I used to watch that all the time.
Really long hair.
What episode?
It's surrounding the movie called Werewolf that I did, my first film I did with Joe Estevez.
Oh, wow.
And then Jorge Rivera was in it, the guy who was in John Wayne's movie with Candice Bergen. And what was Richard Lynch, the actor Richard Lynch. He's passed away now, but he was one of the great character actors from San Francisco streets and on and all. But it made Mystery Science Theater because it's ranked number 49 out of 100 top B movies of all time.
Nice.
And I did it my early days back in 1995 in LA when I was living out in LA and pounding the pavements out there. And it's got on Mystery Science Theater and people ripped it to pieces, man.
That's awesome.
It was fun for me to sit and watch that two little robots tear it apart. Yeah.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
It's on YouTube.
Drink away my acting career.
There you go. Would you like to talk about another project?
I mean, so yeah, the Modern Guild is the one I'm really focusing on now. I'm writing a female-driven comedy that I have Wanda Sykes in mind for, so I'd love to someday get that read and sold, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So basically, right now we're looking at Amazon is the place to go. Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, it's free to watch. It's a fun movie, and I feel like if you're a creative, you'd appreciate it because I feel like, I mean, everyone can appreciate it, but oftentimes, you know, the creatives are the ones that don't take that straight career path. You're like, let me try this job. Let me try this job. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And so, like the character Benny, you kind of are really like this, kind of figuring out your life. So.
Great. It's a great film as far as cinematography is concerned. I mean, he did an awesome, Michael did an awesome job with his camera work.
And Colson Bostick, too.
Yeah. It's such an honor to work with people, you know, director of photography. Using the red camera, we shot it on the red. It was just a great.
And I mean, the best part about this film is like I'm super proud of it, and we did it on what, $12,000 budget?
Yeah.
Wow. Which is ridiculous.
Over like 3 years.
Over 3 years.
Wow. I don't go on vacations.
Yeah.
We had a baby in that.
He had to rush to the Northeast at the end of it for a baby. His first daughter was born during it. So we did a feature film for $12,000, which is probably the most impressive thing. And when you watch it, I don't think it looks like a $12,000 film.
No.
So I'm extremely proud of it. I think it's, you know, if you're looking for a good heartfelt film, you're going to walk away with this movie just feeling good. You know, it has a couple of nice messages to it, but you know, it's not going to hit you hard. It's just you're going to walk away, feel good. You can kind of escape from the world for about an hour and 20 minutes, and so that's what I love about it.
Nice.
It's a real family style film. There's, you know, because in this day and age, because there's a lot of you know, everybody.
We say that.
Everybody's got a gimmick.
Butt cheeks.
Everybody needs a gimmick.
And we did find out the computer did crash, but they are going to be able to show the trailer.
Okay.
So they said
That's
it
cool.
would be
Yeah.
about 20 minutes. So
About 15
hopefully we'll get a
minutes.
cue when it's ready, and then we will show that
Alright.
and maybe.
Meanwhile, they can see it on YouTube. They can see it on Facebook.
Yeah,
You can follow
yeah.
the page on Facebook, Tag Team Truckers.
Yep.
All the
Yeah,
actors, we all have actor pages on
Facebook is Tag Team Truckers, and it's jasonanacona.com.
Yeah, or even tagteamtruckers.com.
Or
Have our own
tagteamtruckers.com. You
website.
can see all Jason's stuff on jasonanacona.com, tagteamtruckers.com, Facebook. Check us on Amazon. Like I say, if you got Amazon Prime, it's free. So.
When I saw the Paul Bunyan Lumberjack movie, I wanted to work with you so bad. I love it.
Also, if you guys,
It's
if you
the
do
shirt.
watch it, please leave a review, especially on
Absolutely.
Amazon.
Yeah.
That's so important to
Absolutely.
us. Whether you like it or not, leave
Yeah,
a review,
whatever.
1 stars or no stars to 5 stars.
You can let us
Anytime.
know again. It's not. There's no trucks in this.
There's
movie.
no trucks in it. There's no truckers. I get 1 horn honk, and that's about it.
And I mean, the title of this show is something like "Trucking for Something," but
Yeah, Tag Team
Trucking for
Truckers,
something.
no
Hey,
trucking.
I got a story I want to tell you. I was shooting No Loss, No Gain up in San Marcos, and we were 6 weeks on that film. I came through. We shot as independent films do, on the weekends, you know, on our off hours. And Sunday night, I'm coming home about midnight through Marble Falls, Texas, and a cop stops me. I'm trying to get home, man. I'm 20 miles from home. I've been working all day, and I'm ready to get home. So I'm traveling a little fast, and he stops me. And he says, "Hey, what's your hurry, buddy?" And I said, "Well, man, I've been on set all day, filming a movie, you know." And the cop, "Oh, a movie, really? What movie?" And I said, "Well, it's called Tag Team Truckers, but it's not a porn." And he dropped down to almost his knees laughing. And he said, "Man, I haven't had that much fun, and I don't know how long. Here you go. I'm giving you a warning. Go home."
Well, imagine talking to my mom and telling her the 2 films I'm in right now are Tag Team Truckers and Virgin Cheerleaders and Chains. I promise y'all, she's seen them both. She approves. Like, it's okay. Mom approves.
Okay, we know that Mom approves on that. All right. Anything else you guys would like to talk about on if you're going to be anywhere, or if you're going to be showing anything, or
Running
any
anywhere,
other
any-
film you would like for us to check out?
I mean,
Any
right now we're just
premieres?
waiting to hear, like for the Monarch Guild, waiting for other festivals. They tell you like a month ahead of time, so I don't know beyond this weekend in Culver City.
So you're
yeah.
waiting for that to hear
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, Jason outed me, but he forgot to tell you that I'm also in the
I'm
Monarch
sorry
Guild.
about that.
Thanks,
He
bud.
is in the Monarch Guild.
Oh, so we got, okay, so you're going to be in the next. You're in the
Yeah,
next.
I'm in the
one.
Monarch Guild as well. I play the vice principal.
And Bud Garrity from Friday Night Lights is in
Yeah.
and did an awesome job in the short. He, I don't know if you know Friday Night Lights very well, the TV show. But if you know Bud Garrity and his daughter Lila Garrity, he's pretty much the car dealership booster guy who's in 82 episodes of Friday Night Lights. So
Wow.
we filmed at Weiss High School on their spring break in Pflugerville in March, and that, so it was pretty intense.
So it's good to know that things are happening here locally.
Yeah.
You don't have to take off, go to. I know a lot of people are going to
Yeah, like for
Vancouver,
locations.
Atlanta, Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's good that we can create our own. Not quite Hollywood. I don't want to say Hollywood, but keep Austin.
So Austin
Keep it
just
local.
they just passed the last legislature session. They gave us, I think, about $40 million to the Texas Film Incentive Program.
That
It was up. Big up. But we really need everyone's support and help, because that was up at about $94 million about 5 or 6 years ago. And we saw when they cut all those incentives, we saw some big television shows leave, like Leftovers, which was an HBO show. And so we're still fighting for that money, that incentives to bring film back to Texas. So us Texas filmmakers, writers, actors can work locally in the state that we love, instead of having to go to LA, having to go to Atlanta, having to go to New Mexico. We have amazing services here. We have craft services. We have the staff. We have the gaffers. We have the camera people. We have the means to make films here in Texas. And that's my passion, is to make films here in Texas, write films, because we have the topography here. We have the history here. You can pretty much film everything. So.
One thing I have to say, in Austin, we do have the people for the crew, for these shows and for these movies, that are more than interested and more than excited to do it.
Yeah, so much talent here, and it takes these small films these passion projects to show, you know, the rest of the world what Austin has. So.
Okay, so here are the guys, Tag Team Truckers. Hopefully we will see the trailer in a little bit. So for now, we're going to go back to the band.
Amber Eye, take it
Amber Eye,
away.
So we're going to give you guys to go.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys. A love song. My songs are about love or about really depressive stuff, but glitter in the gutter. January 31st, Peaches Records in-store appearance at New Orleans Checkpoint Charlie's. I've never been, so.
Before that, San Antonio, and Dallas, and San Antonio again, I think. Houston for sure.
Yeah, and we're in band camp, so.
Oh yeah, band camp under Amber Eye. We're there.
Thank you guys.
Woohoo!
Yeah, yeah. A little rough. Into the void. Burning tree.
Burning
Up
tree.
tempo.
2 minutes of about Christmas.
Yeah.
Dysfunctional family Christmas. We all have them. Time to torture.
Christmas in July. Yeah, we're tuning in. Thank you guys very much. Burning tree. One, two, three, first and by the window, the same old sadness was across my face. Every day she's a walking, and the Christmas tree inside your lights on me. It's all the family, hey, they're doing alright too. Which one do you think gonna be? To me. Well, I wanna know is how I tell the kids that hey, this never was a family. Nothing changes. You can't change what's broken. Forever lost. Nothing changes. You can't change what's broken. And we start again.
Yeah.
It's called 15th floor.
Time for another one?
Okay.
One more.
Do, oh, yeah.
Hell yeah! Trust me, it's just as weird for us.
It's a rock party.
Inside front person. Here we go. Last one. And we got the rain running down on the sidewalk. Clouds rolling up in stripes. We know it's gonna be a bad day. A bad day. Thank you guys very much. And we're MRI. See us on the Facebook.
On the band camps. And now on the YouTube. We're everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Okay, we have Jason and
And
Kona.
Kona.
And we are getting ready to show the trailer for Tag Team Truckers. This is
All right,
his
good
baby.
deal.
We'll try this time.
I've seen it a few times.
Back it up.
Last day. Interesting resume here. See, you have a lot of colors, infographics, and you added an emoji.
Yeah.
If you want a job that offers adventure, great pay, and the ability to travel this country, you should give us a call today.
We should totally do this.
Yes.
So, what are you looking for in a role here?
I don't know. I love dogs, sunglasses, t-shirts, a bunch of random stuff, really.
All right, are you ready for a surprise? Yeah. We have this La Pearl necklace going to perform, so make sure you have your glasses on.
You want to see this.
Yes, we are waiting for music. Crickets. Music. We're waiting for music. Do we have music? Did you bring your music? Oh, can that would be good. Okay. Okay, we're gonna do just a quick few minutes on this live show. So, up next, even after we have Lady La Pearl, we are going to be back to talk to a few people that are here in our audience. We're going to have Saul Ravencraft. As usual, he's in our audience a lot. JP's in our audience a lot, always working, doing things. And we are going to bring in a new crew member, John Wolfler. Wolfer? Wolfer. And he actually, you had a movie that was submitted.
Actually, a 4-minute short that I submitted to South by Southwest under the film school just down the street. And it was called A Mannequin. And it was well received. And then I'm in my, going into my next class. And then I have another 4-minute film that I'll be submitting for next year's South by Southwest.
If y'all don't know, and if you don't have badges yet, but this weekend is Other Worlds Sci-Fi and Horror Film Festival.
Woohoo!
It's at Galaxy in Highland. You can go to the website otherworldsfilmfest.com to find out more information. The horror centerpiece is Scare Package. It's a local filmed in Austin anthology horror film. It's really good. And our highlight is for our Defender of the Universe Award, we have Nicholas Myers, director and screenwriter for Star Trek Wrath of Khan and Star Trek 6 Undiscovered Country. He'll be at the festival doing the book signing as well.
Can we, do you guys have another song you'd like to do? While we're getting her music ready, if you'd like to.
Yeah.
Or if you just want to jam for a little bit. You're welcome to.
Our guy will kiss her off the sun.
Thank you. We're going to have Amber I have some music, perform maybe a song while we're getting ready for our burlesque performance. Yeah, we got a drummer. Woo-hoo! Yeah, we always love good music, especially Austin music, and that's what we're all about, is going around and seeing different acts in Austin. So I appreciate you guys coming on. Been really good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm totally freaking out. Can you tell I'm freaking out? I'm totally freaking out.
This is a show about Austin. We have a song called Austin, Under the Austin Sun, that we are going to play.
Crazy
very much.
Thank you, Amber Eye.
Are we done?
Let me interview here real quick, and then we're going to come back to you, and that way you can do another one and help close this out after. We're going to go ahead and come over here for audience participation. These are people in the audience we pull out that come watch our show and bring things. I'm going to start with JP from JP and DM Creations.
Yes.
And if you'd like to talk about your little artwork, I love it.
Well, my most recent piece, and all of my masks are custom cast,
I met this
covered
guy
in a
Sunday.
thermoplastic. And with this particular guy, the Baphomet Cenobite Dragon is just a culmination of every critique anyone had ever given me about my art that was a
Nice.
negative, I put into one mask.
Awesome.
I met this
And
guy Sunday.
It
He's
fits
pretty awesome.
over my glasses too, so.
Nice. Look here.
I think about people with glasses.
I love the hooks in the nose.
Yeah, it's got, going with that Hellraiser Cenobite style, I put the lament configuration in the forehead, and then I have chains coming down to titanium fishhooks, because authenticity.
Because titanium.
And then
Is this from
Delilah
Delilah's?
has been working on crowns, like this one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Little crown you can wear, and kind of Tim Burton-esque skull Christmas ornaments.
That's definitely
Those are
one of my
darling.
favorites.
She's been having a lot of fun making these, and I've had a lot of fun watching her make them while trying to do my own art.
Hopefully at some point we will get to video her or have an interview of some sort with her. I know she works,
Yeah.
but she does the most incredible little pieces, just details.
Yeah, we both have 9 to 5 jobs, so, well, she has a 4 to 4 a.m. job. But
She stays here. Okay, well, and I'm hoping, I've already talked to you about if we closer to Mardi Gras, if you want to do a Mardi Gras section, we can have you bring a lot more of your pieces in and discuss
definitely. Around that time of year, I don't do normal Mardi Gras masks, but I do Mardi Gras inspired masks around
Inspired,
that
the
time.
colors, inspired. We were talking with John, and he's a new crew member, and he had a short, The Mannequin,
Yeah, it's called a mannequin.
last year, and now he's also submitted.
I've not submitted yet. But
Well,
I'm working on it.
to us, like
Yeah, I
you submitted
submitted
to me and Michelle. He sent us the.
script?
Was it going to be 4 minutes, 5 minutes
It's
short?
going to be a 4-minute short.
4-minute short.
It's called Spirits Whispering Illusions. And it's kind of like we all deal with demons within inside of us. And I have this vision of 2 women where one woman comes into the apartment, she starts pulling stuff out of her grocery bag, but in the master bedroom, her partner is crying. She's drinking alcohol, and she has this disbelief that her lover is unfaithful. But as she's drinking, she passes out. As she passes out, she goes into the ether world. And when she goes into this other world, she's a little bit confused, but there's a demon says, "Hey, over here, come over here. I got a drink for you." Because I love company. Because misery loves company. So the first demon is spirits. So she comes in, brings her into, imagine you're in the kind of like in the forest, but like in a gully where it's only like a certain path where you're kind of like enclosed. She approaches her, entices her to drink. Now she got her grips on her. And then she goes and talks about, oh, I don't know if you've been hearing about your lover, but I got someone to share with you. My sister, who's the whisperer. So they go further down. There's another girl. And I have a vision of kind of like a ponytail, and she could be on a cell phone. It's like, oh my gosh, have you heard what your lover's been doing? And she goes over and whispers to her, says, I can't believe this. Oh, I know it's hard to believe, but maybe I could show you. Now the next demon is the illusions. And then they bring her down, and you see this one woman kind of like very mature. It's like, let me show you. And then all you can see is 2 females having a good time. And then as they get closer, the other one turns around and it turns out to be her lover. She falls down in torment, and then the three demons just banter her. And then as she falls down, we go back into the real world, and you see her lover actually bring like a tray of tea and stuff to the room, and it's like, oh my gosh, you've been drinking again. And then we go back into the ether world, and then it's kind of like the same position where she was with her lover in the real world, but she can't see herself, but she only believes that the illusion that they're portraying on her. And then what happens is that as she's there crying, and imagine we could put her on a Lazy Susan and she's being spun around, and you got the demons just laughing at her. It's like, oh, you failed. And then a light will appear behind her, and it's her lover, and touches her. And when she's touched, she'll bring back, because of the touch of love, the human connection. And says, oh, you've been drinking again. Here, have some tea. He says, oh, can you forgive me? And she says, there's nothing to forgive. I'm here for you.
So the round and
that's
round.
the end.
It's nice.
Yeah, that's the message.
Okay. All right. I know you're going to want to introduce something, but are we ready for
special part?
2 minutes before that? Okay, but in a couple minutes, or do you have time
I
to
can be
introduce?
brief. I can be brief. Believe it or not, I can be brief. So there are 3 fun things coming up in the weirdly wonderful world of Soul Ravencraft. As I hope you know, once a month we do Ravencraft's Vault of Horror, where we celebrate something from the world of horror, all the way back from the early days of the 30s and black and white Bela Lugosi and all that, up to about the year 2000 or so, because after that the horror movies largely kind of suck, except for Virgin Cheerleaders in Chains. Awesome.
That's gotta be awesome.
But we are going to have some fun this month, lighten it up, enjoy the holiday season. We're going to do Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh, lovely.
And it's funny because I'll say that, and some people are like, oh no. But most of the people just light up with that because it is fun. It's got Lon Chaney Jr. As
Yes.
the Wolfman. It's got Glenn Strange as the Frankenstein monster. And Bela Lugosi plays Dracula for the second time in his career.
Wow.
He never played Dracula again until this movie, after that first film in 1931. So that's going to be at Mr. Tramp's. It's going to be on the 3rd Monday this month because there's an Eagles game. And Mr. Tramp's is going to be overrun with athletic supporters. So we're going to bump it, but you can find that easily. The second thing going on, I just found this out today.
Can I stop you to have you come back too? So that way you'll have more
I
time.
would love
and then
to
we can
catch
come
my
right
breath.
back to you. So we're gonna go right now while they have the music ready to La Pearl Necklace. We're gonna
And
pretend we hear music. We ready?
he doesn't know.
Okay, just a quick while you're redressing. Everybody enjoy that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay, anywhere special that you will be performing next?
I'm sorry.
Deep breath.
Can I catch my breath? Actually, I don't have any set shows right now. Possibly New Year's, but nothing's set in stone right now. I was super busy around Halloween, so kind of decided to take a little bit of a break, but hopefully within 2020 I have a lot more going on.
You came here on our last show with Horror Web, so
Yeah.
do you perform a lot with them?
I do. So yeah, I performed with them on Halloween and for their birthday bash. So yeah, I perform with them a lot. It's a lot of fun. That's when I get all the gory makeup and stuff involved. So that's when it gets really fun.
So you can do the FX work and stuff. Do you have a Facebook page?
I do. I have my normal page, which is just Lindsay LaPearl. I have my stage, which is LaPearl Necklace, and then I have Instagram for LaPearl Necklace.
So if you want to see more pictures or shots of LaPearl Necklace, and we thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll have to have you back some other time.
Yeah, of course.
We could do FX. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we need to have Saul come up. Or if you want to finish, I know you have a lot of things going.
So yeah, there's
Lot to share, lot
there's
to
two
share.
more things that are coming up, and I apologize for using my calendar here.
Okay,
but
we have 2 minutes.
This just went on the calendar now. On the Sunday, the 22nd, at Kick Butt Cafe, I'm going to do what Charles Dickens used to do and read people a ghost story. I'm going to read A Christmas Carol using the same edited text that Charles Dickens used when he did live readings back in the Victorian times. It's going to be a family-friendly event, so come on out, dress up, and enjoy a night of ghost stories. And save a date in February on the 7th. We are producing a show called The Cabaret of Curiosities, and it is going to be a burlesque variety show from my universe.
Nice.
So save that date, and we'll see you.
Okay, we're going to go to the band to close it out. We thank you guys for being here.
Thank you guys so much. I had a wonderful time. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
And here we go with Amber Eye.
Guys, just kidding up. Song called So Alive. You boys ready? You ready, Clint? You're always ready. I'm not. Okay. So Alive.
your host, Brad West, where we talk about comic books, culture, and superheroes mostly. Today, we've got my co-host Greg and Bo. They're my husband and my superhero best friend, so we're going to have a lot of fun today talking about the Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm sure you've all heard about this by now if you're in any way, shape, or form in tune to the superhero world. CW Arrowverse, as it's known, DC Comics collection of shows on the CW, is building up to a huge crossover between the different shows, and we thought we would go back into time, into 1985, and talk about the comic book event that inspired it. The comic book event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, same name, is actually one of the most important, if not the most important, major event in modern comic book history, even though it was back in 1985. It has influenced everything in comic book world pretty much since then, superhero world since then. So much has been taken from this, and I mean the very concept of the multiverse, as we know in pretty much every major science fiction fantasy world now, has come to adapt. Starts with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now I am a little bit disappointed that my comic book aficionados are not as familiar with it as I am. I got Bo to actually read that recently. So
I've been reading it today.
He's been reading it today. Yeah, you kind of like failed on your homework last week. But we're going to talk about it. The cool thing about the Crisis on Infinite Earths is that it has affected so many things since then that even if you aren't aware of it, you're probably familiar with some of it. So
yeah, there's so much that happened because of it that even not having read it, you can't help but be aware of it.
Yeah. And I mean also to all of the companies now have these big, huge, giant comic events that happen almost every year, and there's crossovers and every single thing, and then it really all started with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Sometimes they go a little overboard.
Yeah, way overboard, and it's brought some really good things, but I think that it's brought some really bad things, because I agree that it's gotten to a point where it's impossible to collect every single crossover, and then you don't know if the crossover is actually going to have a pivotal thing happening, because sometimes the crossovers is somebody just walks through a panel.
Right.
It's like that's I bought this book because I thought it was part of the story, and it's just
and you have your main story arc, and then you have all of your side books.
Yeah, and the side books, sometimes you need the side books to understand exactly what's going on in the main.
Sometimes you don't, and you don't know which until you've bought them, and you're going, why did I waste my money on this?
For better or for worse, Crisis on Infinite Earths was the innovator of the major event comic book crossover / tie-ins. And you can pick up a copy of this at one of our affiliates, Dragon's Lairs Comics and Fantasy. They will have some collected editions, really easy to find anywhere, and they're super fun. And the cool thing about this being go back in time, when this was a new idea, they didn't quite have the money grabby scope of them that they have these days.
Yes.
So you can actually get the whole thing out of here. Now, basically,
and it was done by a master. I mean, Marv Wolfman and George Perez.
And George Perez. I mean they're a masterful
there's so
writer,
many
a
characters.
beautiful artist.
Yeah, there's so many characters in Marvel and DC that they've created that it's. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, Black Cat and Spider-Man. Black Cat was created by Marv Wolfman. Blade was created by Marv Wolfman.
We were talking earlier. Technically, Spider-Woman, as far as we're concerned.
Spider-Woman. He actually wrote the entire run, the first run of the Spider-Woman comic. And Black Cat was supposed to be a villain for Spider-Woman, and they moved him over to Spider-Man instead of Spider-Woman. And so he brought Black Cat over and launched her in Spider-Man instead. So, and history was made.
Yeah. Marv Wolfman was a prolific Marvel creator until he moved over to DC.
And then he created prolifically over there.
Right.
He's a prolific creator.
Yeah.
But his start his start at DC was the New Teen Titans. New Teen Titans was his collaboration with artist George Perez in an attempt to compete with the then popular X-Men of Marvel Comics. And the Titans TV show that we watch today is mostly based on the New Teen Titans Titans, not the original Teen Titans. So these are the creators who really shaped characters that everybody knows today. Marv Wolfman, George Perez, an amazing artist. I love George Perez. He worked on my favorite comic book character, Firestorm, was his first thing in Marvel Comics.
DC.
Or DC Comics, excuse me, from Marvel Comics when he moved over to DC. He did so well at DC that they gave him an extended contract. He had been working on the New Teen Titans with Marv Wolfman. Marv Wolfman was also an editor at DC Comics, and what pretty much led to this was at the time he was editor of the Green Lantern titles, he receives a letter from a fan concerned that the characters don't recognize each other even though they had previously met just issues back.
Like 2 or 3 issues prior.
And what it really was that they were actually talking about one of the parallel Earths DC had accomplished. Now, the concept of the multiverse goes back to Flash 123, 1962, I think it was, Flash number 123, where the Silver Age Flash meets the Golden Age Flash as the Flash of two worlds. This is a very important moment in comic book history, and it was the first time that the concept of tying in the modern, at the time, comic books with the old comic books had come into play. And this became so popular in itself that it kind of opened what Marv Wolfman considered to be a Pandora's box. It goes into...
It was your first... It was the creation of basically the multiverse. Because Flash and Flash, you had Jay Garrick and Barry Allen, were not of the same world. So how did they meet? Well,
this was their attempt to explain why there were two completely wildly different versions of the Flash. Well, they were on different planets, Earths, parallel worlds. That was all good and well until they decided to bring that over into the Justice League comic book, and their first Crisis on Earth 1 was the other Earth had needed help from the other Earth, and this began an annual crossover between the two different worlds in the Justice League comic books, and also is what establishes the buzzword that DC will continue to use even up until like last year, crisis. So every time you see crisis, it's DC cashing in on this very first.
To this.
Sorry, it goes all the way back to this. So Marv Wolfman deciding that one of the reasons that DC was losing all of its sales to Marvel was more relatable because Marvel was more unified. It was a single universe, and even though DC had good intentions by giving different creators this multiverse will open up your creative freedom, it ended up being just confusing, a convoluted mess. Too many people, like I was saying earlier, the original continuity whores, as we call them today, they were real sticklers for well, this happened in this one, why didn't this happen in this one? And it continued to alienate creators and as well as fans at the same time. So Marv Wolfman's okay, let's go back to basics. Let's get rid of this multiverse and let's do something fun with it. Let's make it this big bombastic thing. So he comes up with the idea for the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
So he actually came up with the idea of the history of the DC universe. But because of the way he pitched it, there was so many of the editors going, that sounds worse than just a history lesson. Because he was talking about combining everything into one thing. And that's when it got changed to Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right.
But yeah, originally it was just supposed to be the history of DC.
And that was a play off of the Crisis on Earth 1 and Earth 2. And so we kind of got out of hand at that point. It was actually super fun. I read it when I was very young. I remember most of it as story-wise goes. That's why I was having Bo read it, so he can remember the story, and I can go back and check in on some of the fun little history tidbits that we love to talk about in the background. And some of the cool things about it were the high death toll, which again. Bo, you're saying you don't...
death toll.
Yeah, high death toll. Marvel was known for having higher stakes at the time, and the idea of death in their comics, not like today, like we've said, the revolving door of death.
Back in the day, when a character died, they stayed dead.
So they stayed dead.
I mean, the big rule was the two people that will always be dead in the Marvel Universe is Bucky and Uncle Ben. You see where that's going.
And Becky eventually came back anyway. Same thing with Jason Todd. He was supposed to be dead forever, and they brought him back. So that's a whole other thing, which is actually kind of fun, too, because when I talk about the redheaded Robin, that's Crisis on Infinite Earths. Jason Todd was originally redheaded before the Crisis, Batman made him dye his hair
So that they wouldn't know that he had a new Robin.
After the Crisis, he had black hair to start with. That's just a little trivia thing, but it got kind of really cool. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the actual story, do you know like the basic story behind it? It's very similar to the shows. Are you keeping up with the CW shows at all?
I'm not.
Oh, fail. Epic fail. Sorry. We're going to shame Greg a little bit. They're actually really cool.
I've been busy at work.
You're busy at work. Yeah. That's a good excuse. Who needs sleep? Watch TV shows. Basically, it goes to the beginning of time and these two beings, the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor. The Monitor is a celestial being whose basic reason for being is to catalog all the different universes. He catalogs the different worlds. So
the way I understood it, reading it today, is he is actually responsible for having a hand in creating the universe. It was supposed to be a singular universe, but something happened spinning out of control, and that's where the multiverse came from. Which, of course, leads back to the big idea on this, is that they're trying to save everything. Because, like I said, you've got Earth 1, you've got Earth 2, you've got Carlton's Earth, which I think they called it Earth S, something like that.
Well, that's actually a good point that you brought up. The other Earths, at this time, DC had such a long history of publication. They had pretty much, from the golden age back in the day, they had put a lot of companies out of business. And over the years, they had acquired other smaller companies. And not all of them didn't even know what to do with. They had the rights to so many characters they didn't know what to do with. But they also started publishing stories of characters that were popular enough. One big example is, and the movie just came out last year, was Shazam.
Captain Marvel.
Right, Captain Marvel.
Because in Infinite Crisis, he is still Captain Marvel.
He is still Captain Marvel.
Because you have the Marvel family, which is not the same Marvel family you see in Shazam.
Right.
Because it was Captain Marvel, Mary Marvel Jr., and then...
Correct.
Uncle Dobby.
So the whole point of Captain Marvel being called Shazam was that
and the tiger, yes.
was that DC had the rights to the Captain Marvel characters, but Marvel, by the time DC bought Captain Marvel characters, had copyrighted the name Captain Marvel. Now the problem was, no, they didn't copyright it; they trademarked it, which was a slight difference. They had a comic book called Captain Marvel and their own character Captain Marvel, but they neglected to prevent DC from using the character name Captain Marvel. Only thing was, DC couldn't use the title Captain Marvel. Well, DC...
This is what started the confusion on Captain Marvel, because they called the book The Power of Shazam.
Actually, they called the TV show Shazam. This is one of the main things that Greg really likes to talk about, is the TV show Shazam. Now, this predates the Crisis on Infinite Earths, because Wonder Woman was popular, the Hulk was popular, the TV shows were getting into the superhero TV shows. DC Comics wanted to create another TV show, but they didn't want to use Superman because they had other plans for Superman. And so they're like, okay, well, let's use a character that we don't use in the comic books, because at the time, Shazam, Captain Marvel, whatever you call him, was not part of the DC universe. He was one of their other publications that they had from before that they were like, okay, we're not publishing this guy. He's a cool character. He used to be really popular. Let's put him on TV. Turns out the TV show was popular enough that people wanted to read him in the comics. And DC is like, okay, we're going to cash in on this. We're going to print a new comic book. But because they couldn't use the name Captain Marvel, both the TV show and the new comic book were called Shazam. Now, one of the things that were meant to be established by the Crisis on Infinite Earths was to not only cut down the continuity of all of these other DC stories, but to incorporate these other brands that they had purchased. Some of the major ones, in addition to the Fawcett Comics, Captain Marvel, Shazam, etc., were the Carlton Comics, which consisted of Captain Atom, Blue Beetle, The Question, all the characters who, by the way, inspired the Watchmen. We talked about this before. So they incorporated those characters in the DC Universe proper, as well as the Quality Comics. Quality Comics, which was home of Police Comics, so they were able to get characters like Plastic Man, the Freedom Fighters, who you've actually seen, Uncle Sam, but the Ray, but Condor, if you've seen the CW animated series The Ray, or one of the previous Arrowverse
I did not
crossovers.
realize that they actually used Earth X in
Yes, yes.
In that.
The Crisis on Earth X from the Arrowverse was based on that.
For those of you that have seen the Arrowverse, they do go to Earth X, which is Nazi Earth.
Yes. Fun fact, though, Freedom Fighters was not a thing at the time Quality Comics was published. The individual characters were all part of the Quality Comics catalog. It wasn't until DC started publishing that they put them together on a team and called them Freedom Fighters. So that's actually a little fun fact, though. So, another cool thing is George Perez, again, one of my favorite artists, was not one of the original artists intended to write it. George Perez previously had worked on various Marvel projects, and he did the Teen Titans versus X-Men crossover, which
I love that book.
Sold really well. Well, he also started doing a Justice League Avengers book, and Marvel, for whatever reason, you have to go back in time and ask them, I don't know.
Yeah.
Changed their mind. They pulled the plug on it. I guess it sold too. The other one sold too well. They didn't want DC to have it. They didn't want to share their toys. I don't know. Whatever. George Perez had drawn quite a bit of this. In fact, in the early 2000s, later Marvel finally let it go, and they produced a JLA versus Avenger, and he used art from the original drawings. But at the time, he was pretty miffed off about this, and having just signed a contract with DC Comics, he begged Marv Wolfman, who was working on Teen Titans with him, he's like, I really want to draw this. Part of his motivation in later interviews, he would say, was pretty much to get revenge on Marvel for screwing him on that project.
Yeah.
In fact, fun little tidbit, I don't remember which issue, and I have to go back and read them myself. I was hoping you'd come across it. There is a panel in which
maybe I didn't. I just need to go back and look.
In which one of the universes destroyed by the Anti-Monitor and the Cataclysm
appears to be a Marvel-like universe.
Is the Marvel universe, which is it's kind of fun. The cool thing about this is George Perez had so much fun drawing it. He wanted the opportunity to draw characters. He'd never ever get another chance to draw. He drew hundreds and hundreds of characters, and this is what established him in the industry as what was known as Hero Explosion. And you'll see a lot of his art. A lot of artists have imitated him over the years. I
mean, like you said, he drew hundreds upon hundreds of characters, and it just kind of goes to show the level of craftsmanship that he puts into his work, because you still see, even though it's all one artist doing this, you still see those distinct features and everything that make those characters easily identifiable. Whereas I have seen other artists that have not had to use as large of a catalog for projects, and you're going, wait, when did this character change costumes? He looks like he's wearing the costume of so-and-so. Oh.
That's who that's supposed to be.
My bad.
But one of the cool things is we were talking about the Secret Wars. Marvel had done a crossover event at around the same time. Now, there is some debate as to who was first, Marvel or DC, but DC is generally credited with coming up with the idea of the Maxi series, because Secret Wars, though technically published before the Crisis, was actually conceived after. It just
so the fun thing about the Infinity Crisis, what kind of makes this go, they came first, is that they started researching, and they proposed the idea, and they hired a research group to read all of DC comics that have ever been written. Took them 2 years to write.
Too long.
It was supposed to come out originally in 82. They pushed it back to 83. It did not come out till 85, which
and Marvel's Secret Wars was 84.
Came out 84. So, and of course DC at the time also didn't do a lot of publicity, or there wasn't a lot of marketing towards it. So no one knew anything about Infinity Crisis until it came out. And
there were some like lead-ins. But the really fun thing about it is, and comic books do this more today than they used to, but it was fun that they had hints.
Yes.
There were all kinds of little things you didn't know, and that goes back starting with the original appearances of the Monitor.
Back in 82.
Back in 82. So one of the cool things that was really unique about this was that Wolfman creates a character named the Monitor, who, as we said, was at cataloging the universe, but he first starts up appearing in the background of various comic books. It was actually an editorial.
He shows up in the shadows.
It was an editorial decision that he should appear in every single comic book, which not all of the writers or editors are actually particularly fond of, but he was meant to be used as this vaguely, maybe he's a villain, maybe he's not, we don't know what he is kind of character, and he was supposed to show
up. For the
up.
first 2 years that they did that, they weren't even allowed to show his face.
Yeah.
He was a shadowy figure in the background that was providing weapons to villains, that was doing stuff to help heroes, and you're just sitting here going,
what's his deal?
What's going on?
Which is kind of cool, which actually makes it more interesting to me. I didn't really realize the depth of this character, again, because this was much too young for me to read all the tie-ins, but knowing this and thinking, okay, they're doing a pretty cool job with the Monitor on the CW shows, because that's kind of what he's doing. They're giving him all this stuff where, I mean, even Green Arrow's like, okay, what is he good? Is he bad? We don't know what's going on. It's kind of fun with that. So I really dig that part about him. So
yeah. But no, it was funny looking into it and everything, because you find out that they don't give the name of the editor in the article that they talk about it, but the year before, in '84, Wolfman reminds all the editors and writers to use the Monitor
at least twice.
At least twice in every book.
Somewhere.
And one of the editors made a fuss about it, and then when it was decided that no, Wolfman gets to make this call, that editor just shut up and would not speak for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, I would love to know
they
who
don't
it
know
was.
They don't name who it was. I know, I would love to also. But yeah, they don't name who it was, but yeah, he apparently pissed off.
My money's on Len Wein, but whatever.
He apparently pissed off at least one of the editors fairly badly with this story.
Right. So, some of the fun things were the, I don't know, the time it took to research it. I don't know. Cool thing is that happy accidents happen like this. So even though it was meant to come out earlier, it got pushed back to the point where it just happened to coincide with DC's 50th anniversary. So they're like, we'll capitalize on that.
We'll
Why
make
not?
it a 50th year anniversary event.
So by the time they did start marketing it, it actually was part of the marketing, which was really kind of cool. And a cool thing about the tie-ins, and this is something to really note that separates it from a lot of the crossovers to follow, especially those with Marvel, DC had it tie in with every single publication at the time. Every one of their titles. Eventually this would become a common practice to have an annual crossover. Both Marvel and DC saw that there was money to be made in this, and it got out of hand by Modern Era.
But unlike what happens in Modern Era, where you've got a big crossover event going on, but you've got books that take place after it coming out at the same time, making references that end up not happening in the main story.
It's a lot more linear.
This took place over the entirety of the DCU. It is a 12-issue story, and it is touched on everything. And they still reference back to it to this day.
And another cool thing is that they used every single title, not just titles that were failing in sales. Marvel would go on to create, we've just seen the Infinity War, Infinity Crisis. The Infinity Crisis series started in Marvel as an actual gimmick to boost sales of lower selling comic books. So the original Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet story took place in a crossover maxi series, but it really only crossed over in comic books that Marvel felt at the time needed a little help getting people to read them. So it was kind of a shifty kind of thing back then. Whereas DC, it's like, we're going to do it all. We're going to do everybody. So that's kind of a cool little thing to note back when you're talking about that as well. Let's see, what are some very fun things other than Monitor actually first appeared in the new Teen Titans. That was the very first appearance of him providing weapons to villains that, turns out he's testing the heroes and such as that. So, but I'm pretty sure that's how George Perez ends up finding out about it.
Probably.
And it had a lot of great effects on the comic book world. It had a lot of legacies that come out of it, including rebooting the entire DC Comics universe, or the majority of them.
Well, and that's where you get your legacy characters. One of your first ones, of course, one of the first legacy characters you encounter in the story itself is a Green Lantern, Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart.
Because when he meets Alan Scott for the first time, Alan actually makes questions, who are you?
Because previously...
Because you're not the Green Lantern I know. And he's going, well, yes, that Green Lantern. And they don't name him, but of course they're talking about Hal
Jordan.
You know, had a splitting of ways with the Guardians. You know,
which is also very, very
that.
indicative of DC's progressive attempts at the time in their reboots and stuff. You know, having a central black character was really important at the time, and using him in the crossover instead of chickening out and going back to the original one was actually pretty cool of them to do.
But then you get your other legacy characters, because with the passing of Barry...
Speaking of high body counts, the death of the original Barry Allen Flash, and of course the original Supergirl, Kara Zor-El, they're two of the most iconic moments in all of comic book history. Yeah. I mean, they've been repeated many times.
The poster for Crisis with Superman holding Supergirl. You have seen it.
It's been copied.
You may not remember it,
of
but
times
you've seen it.
But the cool thing about that is that by the end of it, Kid Flash, Wally West, took over as the Flash. This was the first time that you ever had an instance of a sidekick making good, as they say. It's the first time you got them actually growing up and taking over their mentor's place. This was a really big thing in comic books at the time, because everybody else was like, you know, sidekicks are perpetually sidekicks.
Yeah, I mean,
is what
Robin, yes, he eventually became Nightwing, but Robin was Robin for years. I mean, you didn't get Robin... Dick Grayson didn't step up to become Batman until...
First late 90s and then the early 2000s.
Yeah, and, you know, with someone who should be dead like 80 times over. But, you know...
I'm going to talk about that. I have a girlfriend who get mad at me if I talk about that. So.
But yeah, so you had your first instance of one of the sidekicks actually getting to step up and take their mentor's role. And the impact that had, not just on the character, but the characters around him, where he eventually becomes a member of the Justice League, but at the same time, they still... It took them a while to stop treating him like, even him, like a sidekick, because he wasn't Barry.
Yeah, so I started reading comics after this came out, so I had to go back when I was younger and reread this. But the one of the first comic books that I picked up was the Wally West Flash, because I'm like, I'm Brad West, Wally West. There's a connection. So I actually, Wally West was my Flash. So
and yet
I read.
He's never cosplayed him.
You know, that's actually kind of interesting. Actually, I need to work on that with the red hair and everything. But the cool thing is all of the elements that the modern audiences
attribute
to Barry Allen, the Flash, actually were Wally West.
Yeah.
The whole concept of the Speed Force didn't even exist during this. He just disappeared into time.
Wally it wasn't revealed that he disappeared into the Speed Force until much later.
Yeah, Wally West was the one who discovered the Speed Force. Wally West came with like a half a dozen of the different characters and concepts and
being
stuff.
able to vibrate through stuff, that was...
No, Flash did that before.
Did he?
Oh yeah, Flash did that before. He did that in the cartoon long before. That was a Flash thing.
I missed that one.
No.
But Star Labs?
Star Labs, that was not a thing in the Flash comic books until Wally West. The TV show stole that from him. Like a ton of things that you see in the Flash TV show were not actually Barry Allen, because Barry Allen was dead when these concepts came up. It was all Wally West. So those are some kind of interesting things to think about that, again, this had some like major influences on the way that superhero stories in general, the DC universe in general, which has just kind of picked up on.
So there's one thing I want to talk about, and that's Pariah. Because he is going to be playing a role in the upcoming series. They have not actually introduced Pariah. Maybe. We have speculation. We have speculation. But they have not actually introduced the character of Pariah into the Arrowverse yet. He is coming because, you know...
You've seen pictures of him online. Tom Cavanaugh will be playing the character Pariah in addition to his many Harrison Wells characters and Reverse Flash. So he's actually, I think, pulling triple duty or something on the show.
I actually just watched Batwoman, the last episode of Batwoman.
We're behind on that one.
he gets created in credits.
Oh, okay, cool. So
Of
yeah, we'll
Batwoman.
watch that one tonight.
So it's Batwoman.
Batwoman is the one to watch for that. So
last
see, you
Batwoman.
are a little bit ahead on some of them.
Right?
But yeah.
But yeah, so the interesting thing in the comic book about this character is that he
Kinda,
sort of starts the chain reaction.
He starts
and from his perspective, for centuries he blames himself for the destruction of his world because his world is the first one to go. And so Pariah is then cursed to survive. And he keeps getting drawn to all the other worlds right at the moments of their death. And so he spends the first half of the story arc popping up, trying to warn the heroes of whatever world he lands on.
But nobody listens.
But nobody listens.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a big problem they have. I'm sorry.
Are you saying he has a Cassandra complex?
Of all the stuff that you've seen, and this is hard to believe.
Sidetrack just a little bit, talking about Raven, because we mentioned her earlier. When they formed the new Teen Titans, I think it was?
Yes.
Raven goes to the Justice League for help first.
Yes.
And they turn to Zatanna and go, what do you think? And Zatanna goes all magic-y going, I sense a great darkness. No, go away.
Go away, yeah. It's like, why did you even ask?
Yeah, you sense a great darkness. She's asking for your help with something that's big coming.
Right.
You sense a great darkness. Maybe it's what she's referring to.
Right.
But no, send her away. Nope, we're good. We can handle it. We'll handle other things. You know, you go find someone else to take care of your problems. That was the thing that always bugged me about
I don't want to spoil it, but if you saw the last episode of Green Lantern, the Green Arrow, the last episode of Green Arrow is my favorite. Is when he's talking to Lance, to Mayor Lance at the time, because they brought Paul Blackthorne back for that episode, and he tells them that he's reliving the same day over and over again, you know, Groundhog style day, and he's like,
Yes,
okay,
I
he's
love
like,
that.
I believe you. And he's like, what, you believe me?
What?
I thought I would have
No,
to convince you
I
more.
thought-
He's like, I've seen one of my daughters come back from the dead twice, another daughter come from another dimension, an alternate version of her. He's like, and a guy who runs so fast that you can't even see him. He's
Yeah,
like,
at
this
this
isn't
point,
even facing me.
you kind of got to take something at face value.
And you know, you would think that would be more of what the Justice League would do in this
I
situation.
know. But yeah, and
They're like, all the stuff you've seen, and you have a problem with that.
We
Whatever.
actually had to rewind because the two
It
of us
was
were
so
laughing
funny.
so hard.
I loved it. I loved it.
Because yeah, with everything y'all see, really, that's a stretch of the imagination. Okay.
Right. So, ultimately, what ended up falling down is by the time all this said and done, and read this, we won't spoil all of it for you, but the fun part is when it's all said and done, you've got a merger of what's in essence boiled down to 5 continuities left. You've got the Golden Age and the Modern Age for the first time are in the single universe. And this is where they create the idea that they are legacy characters. So instead of having a new Flash and a new version of Superman and a new Green Lantern as independent of the original World War II characters, they're actually inspired by them. And some of the older ones even managed to survive for whatever reason. Their powers kept them old, etc.
Except for Green Lantern. I mean, they kind of really still go with, you know, they're two separate things. Because they're...
Yeah, it's not really in the 90s until the 90s when they explain why they're connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott, his powers are magic based. Whereas your modern Green Lantern, John Stewart, Hal Jordan, all them, their power rings work on super science. You know, science so advanced it might as well be magic.
Right.
But you know, it's not magic. And so, you know, for years they shared a name because Alan Scott, for some reason, found the thing that gave him his power. He carved it into a lantern and made his ring.
And the Green Lanterns, it's not really a lantern, it's just a power battery that happens to look like an Earth lantern. It's a thing. But then you also get the Charlton characters get merged into it. Quality gets merged into it. The Fawcett family gets merged into it. So you have Shazam, Captain Marvel in the DC universe proper. So that's actually one of the main things. And you also get some reboots, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. And then there's a lot of
you know, there is something else I also learned that I found interesting. So the Alexander Luthor that ends up taking up the Monitor's cause is from Earth 3, which was the crime syndicate Earth with Ultraman, Power Ring, blah, 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 blah. And of course, his dad was a Luthor because instead of being evil, he was good while all your heroes were evil. I didn't realize his mom was Lois.
I did not either.
Yeah.
I knew that by
that
being
version of
saved,
Lex Luthor married that version of Lois Lane, and so it was Lois Luthor, of course, but yeah.
That's interesting. Now, they've tried over the years to try and compensate and course correct. At one point, there was hyper time, alternate timelines as opposed to alternate realities, and then of course they had alternate dimensions, which it just
and now you're back to
it got messy
an
and
actual
messy.
multiverse.
Well, they ended up following it up. Now, Jeff Johns, we talk about his influence on DC Comics to varying degrees. He's like a blessing and a curse at various points in the continuity.
Two of the stories that I really enjoy that Jeff Johns did was, of course, Green Lantern Rebirth and Flash Rebirth.
Now, this is the Rebirth before the New 52 Rebirth.
Yes.
Because he really likes that word, too.
Yeah, right.
It might as well be
And
Crisis.
that's where, so Hal Jordan went mad, became evil, died, came back, but didn't come back. So he was, a lot of his fans that grew up with Hal Jordan were upset that they killed off such a iconic character. And I can understand why, because I'd be fairly upset if they killed off Nightcrawler, which they did.
A lot.
No, they only killed him off once. I mean, another story later time. But, so to try and appease some of those fans that were being extremely vocal, they brought Hal Jordan back. They made him the left hand of God, the Spectre, the spirit of vengeance in the DC universe, godlike powers.
Which is interesting because Spectre plays a major part in the Crisis on Infinite
not the Hal
Earths.
Jordan version.
Not the Hal Jordan version, the original.
But the original,
version.
version of the Spectre does play a big part in this. But a lot of fans still were not happy because Hal should be a Green Lantern. He should never have gone evil. So eventually, retcon, they did the Green Lantern Rebirth, where when the Spectre sacrificed himself in a big battle, Hal's spirit had the chance to move on to heaven, and Ganthet, one of the Guardians of the Galaxy, if you don't know, being the meddler that he is, used his power to draw Hal back to life in his original body, which was interred on
Okay,
Oa.
well, this isn't a Green Lantern story. So let's get to the point.
But anyways, so Jeff Johns brought back a couple of the iconic characters that older fans grew up reading. Hal
This is
Jordan,
what got him
Barry
really-
Allen. That's where he got the big name.
Yeah, he really got his start doing the Rebirth stuff. And the cool thing about him at the time was everybody really liked him because he had an affinity for the Silver Age, the pre-Crisis Age. He had a love for it because he grew up with it. And so he was trying to find a way to bring back the pre-Crisis characters in a post-Crisis modern era. And more or less he did a good job for a while until he got a big head and started just going hog wild.
Be nice.
And, well, no, that leads me into like my next thing. So Crisis on Infinite Earths was eventually followed up 20 years later by a sequel called, brace yourself, The Infinite Crisis, which is wholly different from the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Spearheaded, of course, by Jeff Johns, and this was an attempt to bring back the multiverse. He brought back the multiverse in the capacity of a limited only 52. Instead of infinite Earths, there was a limited multiverse of 52 universes. Why 52? We don't know. We do know that DC had been playing with the whole 52 concept because 52 weeks in a year, and they had 52
Yeah,
week
several years
longs.
prior, they had the DC 52, which was there was a
No, it was the
issue-
same year.
Was it the same year?
Yeah, that's what came out of it.
Okay.
It was part
but
of it.
there was an issue that came out every week of the year.
Once a week, a weekly comic book. That was kind of fun. 52 once a week, whatever.
But your trinity of heroes, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, were all backburnered. They were
And this
not
brought a lot of the
retired,
other
they
characters into the
were
spotlight.
stepping back. So Clark Kent showed up in several of those, but Superman never did.
Right.
Same with Bruce Wayne and Batman and Diana and Wonder Woman.
Now, the idea was that he was trying to kind of still tie into the Crisis on Infinite Earths, but bring a lot of these older characters that had either fallen by the wayside since this or had been completely gotten rid of at the time too, and get them into the front and make them kind of interesting. And again, that was with varying levels of degrees of success. It was followed up shortly thereafter, within the next few years, by a third part called The Final Crisis, which we all know is not really the Final Crisis, because then DC just turns around and reboots their entire universe into the New 52. When the New 52 wasn't 52 weeks, it was 52 comic books. They were making this edict to simplify and only print 52 issues at a time.
52 titles.
It was a thing too. Well, that of course leads into a whole nother multi-comic book year crossover called Convergence. So that was kind of fun because even in the Convergence, you'd have to go and look it up. I'm not even going to start. That's a whole nother episode by itself. But they did revisit the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Many of the characters even went back in time to the time of the Crisis. Writers were very excited to get a chance to play in that sandbox, only to just turn right back around and create DC Rebirth, and they're currently working on a dark multiverse, which also has its own version of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I have it actually written down here like this. It was followed up by the Crisis, Infinite Crisis, meh, Final Crisis, garbage, New 52 Crisis, Convergence, it was a little bit of fun, and Rebirth, Dark Multiverse Crisis, what the hell. So that's how that one goes down for me. Now, another huge fun thing that came out of this that has been very popular, especially with the movie, which was not so awesome but did well commercially, was the Suicide Squad. Now, Suicide Squad comes out of the, well, I was saying there was a lot of extra fat left over. They get all of these different comic book companies, they merge them all together, they have all of these heroes, but we know what we did with all the heroes. Some of them died, some of them didn't, some of them got merged into new versions, some of them got rebooted completely. But then, they also had a crap load of new villains. They were just sitting there, doing nothing. Well, having learned that, again, bloodthirsty fans love people dying, and that makes the stakes real. Jerry Ordway, who was at the time doing Firestorm, who's brought on to do some of the inking duties on this, was given the opportunity to play with those villains and created the Suicide Squad. The whole fun of the Suicide Squad, and the reason that people liked it, and the reason people bought it, was because it was a group made up of villains being forced to work for the government. And at any point, very, very Game of Thrones, at any point, one of your favorite characters could die and you didn't know. They were all expendable. And that was actually kind of the fun of it, was like, even if you loved the character, they probably were going to die. And that really led into a very long history of that. And that got rebooted several times, but every time with the same concept, and every time it was every bit as fun. So that was actually kind of one of my favorite things about the coming out of the Crisis on Infinite Earths was Suicide Squad. It was a really, really good book, really well written. It ended up being so popular that all the major creators were like clamoring to get a chance to be a part of it. I know you had some of the Suicide Squad stuff that you read and liked. I mean, it was cool because it was able to pull villains from every aspect, every comic book, every fandom managed to get some kind of play in there. So I thought that was super kind of cool too. Thoughts?
On Suicide Squad? Not really.
Or,
I mean, no.
I was
you're
never
right.
really big into Suicide Squad.
Yeah, neither was I, but it was a fun
Mm-hmm.
concept. I mean, not knowing a whole lot, I think the only character I know for 100% that Suicide Squad has never actually had a chance to use was Joker.
Joker? I don't know if Joker was ever on Suicide Squad or not. I
mean,
honestly don't know.
I think he was periphery in a couple.
Many Batman characters were.
Let's face it. I mean, the whole thing with Suicide Squad is they're putting bombs in your head. Do what you're told or not. You really think that's going to matter to Joker?
Yeah, now the only fun thing that I really liked out of the second part of this in 2005 when they came up with the Infinite Crisis was Alexander Luthor, basically Jr., the son of Lois and Alexi from Earth
It was
3.
Alexi Luthor and Lois Luthor.
Yeah, and Lois Luthor. Actually, after the end of this, there were only 4 characters left who actually remembered anything that was going on. It was the Golden Age Superman and Lois Lane, the Earth 1, or Earth Prime Superboy. Earth Prime Superboy is a really interesting character. He was written as he was one of the very first metafictional characters that DC Comics ever created. Earth Prime Superboy is Superboy from our Earth, the Earth of DC Comics publisher, in a world where Superman is a periodical comic book. This character finds out that he's actually Superman from another dimension, and he's been on the real Earth for a while. And it's kind of fun because then you have like some of the DC comic editors popping in and out of it, and other creators will be in there. But he ends up so powerful that he's like more powerful than any other Superman ever, having been in the real world or whatnot. But the 4 of them are the only ones left by the time everything is over, so they create their own pocket paradise universe where they're going to go off and live and die. Well, Superman doesn't realize that he's getting old, or he's not getting old. He's not getting old as fast as Lois Lane is. Well, Lois Lane is getting old faster than he is, and she's dying.
Well, she ages at the
She's
normal
aging
rate
at a
of a
normal
human.
rate. Alexander Luthor Jr. Goes a little crazy because he just spends all this time talking to himself. And that Superman determines that the Earth that was left over is wasting its potential. And decides he wants to bring back his version of the Earth, and he's convinced that doing so will save Lois's life. So they come back and they try to recreate the multiverse. And part of the storyline includes Alexander Luthor Jr. creating a new secret society of supervillains. But my favorite thing is by the end of it, Lex Luthor of the main Earth is the one who defeats him by luring him into an alley where the Joker melts his face off with acid. And his retort is like, that's what you get for not inviting him to your supervillain club. Because the Joker's pretty much, his only purpose there is he's just cheesed off that they didn't invite him to be part of the supervillains. But none of the other supervillains wanted to work with him. That's one of my favorite things. I'm sorry. I don't know why that's just a fun little anecdote part of that, but it just amuses the heck out of me.
Yeah, Joker's kind of one of those characters. You don't invite him to the party because you expect him to show up. You invite him to the party because if you don't, he will.
He will, yeah, right, and then you're going to regret it. One of my favorite things about this time in comic book history is, and I've talked about Firestorm as why he's an important character, he was created pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths because he was one of DC's first attempts to try and capture the formula of Marvel Comics. Ronnie Raymond was a high school student, and he got bonded with a scientific professor, but he had to deal with all of the daily problems, the money problems, the girl problems, balancing college. He ended up going to college. The teenage drama and the relationship drama, and that was their first real attempt at doing that. So that when this actually happened, the crisis happened, afterwards, he was one of the few characters not to get touched. His continuity stayed completely the same.
Completely intact.
Intact because he was already on the way to what they were trying to accomplish. That's one of the reasons that Firestorm, and it's one of the reasons that the Firestorm characters got used so widely in the Suicide Squad is because Jerry Arbor was, of course, doing both of the books at the time. So I find that interesting. But there's a lot of fun stuff that comes out of this. One of the main characters, and we actually, from the very beginning, from the first time we saw the Green Arrow TV show, there was 2 characters that stood out. First of all was Felicity Smoke. Now, for those of you who don't know, Felicity Smoke was a throw-off character, name only, that they used on Green Arrow. I don't think she was even intended to be on there as long as she was, but she was so popular with the fans. The actual Felicity Smoke from the comic book was Firestorm's stepmom. So she actually had nothing to do with Green Lantern or Green Arrow in the comic. I don't know why I say Green Lantern, but Green Arrow in the comic book whatsoever. The only thing is that she was a tech expert. She was super smart, and she was one of the first female technologically experts, but also successful businesswomen in comic books. So she was actually pretty cool at the time. In fact, she found out Firestorm's secret identity before his father did, so she actually started covering for him. She was an interesting character. You'd have to read the comic book to really get the find out of her. But so as soon as Green Arrow started, and I'm like, Felicity Smoke, what is she doing here? That means
he commented quite frequently on how she didn't belong.
She does not belong here.
She was a great character.
Yeah, she evolved into something completely different on the show. But the second
other character, okay, so the other character, assuming we're thinking the same one, was Diggle's wife,
Lila
Michaels, who Lila Michaels in the Infinite Crisis is a character called Harbinger.
Which was funny. It took him a couple of seasons to actually do it, but her code name ended up being Harbinger, which I'm like, okay, at least that's a nice nod. Her code name is Harbinger, whatever.
So, but it goes back to your writers and what the fans kind of expect. So, we've mentioned it before. We're big fans of Doctor Who and how they like to lay their seeds out throughout the course of several seasons, and it may not come up until you regenerate it to 3 different doctors. Well, we've argued this. I feel like part of the reason they introduced her, that they chose her, was that because Crisis.
They're laying the groundwork.
In Flash, they're talking about Crisis pretty much from day one.
I think it was just a throwaway name, and it was a happy accident. And now that they're actually doing the Crisis on Infinite Earths, they're like, well, we've already got her in there.
Yeah. But, so I think she was there as part of the groundwork for Crisis all along. He disagrees.
I disagree. I think that, yeah. I mean, I'm glad that they are, and they are definitely using her to the capacity that she is helping the Monitor. As far as whether or not her origin's going to sync up, well, that remains to be seen. But I do find it kind of cool that they've given her a Harbinger costume. It's actually one of my favorite costumes.
Actually, it's really nice.
It's one of the most both the Harbinger.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, both the Harbinger costume and the Pariah costume are very, very good interpretations of their costumes from the comic book. I'm actually I don't imagine any fan wouldn't be very pleased with the way that these two costumes come out. So they're pretty cool. They're very indicative of their design from the book and such. So that's another fun thing if you get a chance to read it. You'll also notice the cover of this beautiful collected edition. Back in 95? Was it 95 was the 10-year anniversary? Or was it later? No.
It was 95 would have been the 10-year anniversary.
No, it was 2000. It was 2000 when it was like maybe a 15-year anniversary, I think. When they first did this cover. Alex Ross, one of my favorite artists of all time.
Man does beautiful work.
He hand paints everything. You cannot get the scope of this here. Google.
Yeah, no. You need to see the
don't just Google it.
You want me to walk it up to the camera?
No. You still can't even get it. It's too small. Google. Be sure that you Google a high res, because it has to be high res. Now, I used to work at Warner Brothers Art Gallery, and we had a full size print of the original painting.
Oh, if only we could have afforded that.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, now it's the poster's cheaper now. You can probably find it cheaper on Amazon or something. But this thing has over 1,000 different characters painted on it, hand painted on it. You can look in the background. I spent hours trying to identify as many as I could. You've got every single DC comic book character, Carlton comic book character, Quality comic book character from the Golden Age, Silver Age, every alternate version of them. I mean, there is just some crazy ass detail in this painting. It is actually one of the coolest things ever to come out of the Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you get a chance to look at it, I highly recommend it. It's super cool. So, I don't know. Your favorite things about DC continuity, not necessarily the comic book, but things that you've learned that have come out of this since then.
Wow.
That's a big question.
Yeah, that's a big question. Honestly, I think one of my favorite things has nothing to do with Crisis. It's DC New Frontier. From Darwin Cook. And I mean, that's going before Crisis, back to the beginning of the Silver Age, the bridge between the Golden Age and the Silver Age, because there was such a gap.
Yeah.
No,
it was a great story.
Yeah, one comic Batman has a gun and he's shooting people because he's like a hard-boiled detective.
Because in the Golden Age,
In his Golden Age, that's what he was.
This whole
And
Batman wouldn't use a gun?
Yeah, that was Silver Age, and that came about because of the Comic Code Authority, which really, of course, we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Was really because of McCarthyism and because of the
It's
backlash.
also where Robin came from.
Because of the backlash against the comic industry, because they were saying that kids couldn't read it and it was corrupting the youth of America.
Violent.
Yeah.
But that's actually
So,
very topically on point, though, because
yeah.
that's kind of what this was trying to accomplish too, was making those connections.
Yeah.
But
then
it
again,
left that
so
open.
like Batman, one issue he's shooting a gun, killing people, and the next issue
He's
he's
changed
Adam
his
West
costume
Batman.
and
Right. And
I
so-
mean, it was such a drastic change for
Yeah.
his character.
And I'm pretty sure Darwin
there was
Cook
no explanation.
probably
Yeah.
Darwin Cook was probably inspired by the combination of the continuities, because now all of a sudden you have a world where both of them had in some form existed.
Right.
So now
Yeah.
you got this. You got a.
If you haven't read New Frontier, you need to.
Yeah,
It's
as
absolutely
much
brilliant.
as Crisis on Infinite Earths
You can
cleaned
watch the movie.
up.
The book is much better.
Yeah, the book is much better.
Well, the both of them were done by Darwin Cook. Darwin Cook actually wrote the script for the cartoon as well, and was there for the entire making of the cartoon. But it was awesome. We're wrapping up. Please donate to Blue Santa if you're here in Austin or your local children's shelters and things like that this holiday season. Dragon's Lair actually is accepting donations for Blue Santa until the 5th. And then
Members
after
of the
that,
Heroes of Texas will also be volunteering with them, so you
Yeah.
can follow up on our page, heroesoftexas.org, and see some of that information as well.
yeah, and we're really accepting donations till the 16th, but the 5th is the cutoff for donations to Blue Santa for this year. Everything after that is going towards next year.
Also, be sure you go to casatravis.org and get a hold of them and get some donations or volunteer time with them before their cutoff date next week as well. They're another group that we support. They've been taking stuff. You can find them on their Facebook and Twitter page as well.
Yeah, here in Austin, it's casatravis.org.
Correct.
Yeah.
And such. So make sure
And
you're...
then Williamson County is casawilco, I believe, .org. And then there's, for San Marcos and below to San Antonio, I think it's Casa Central, Texas. I mean, you can look it up.
Yeah, you can find our Casa.
You can find Casa.
We love them. They're really good.
They are fantastic.
Yeah. So make sure if you get a chance to read this before the show comes out. It may confuse you more. It may just make it more entertaining.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be so many differences because of
That's kind of
obviously
the
they're
fun of
doing
it, though,
more
right?
of a television show / movie versions.
Well, and that's one of the great things with the
Yeah.
TV show. One of the things I'm enjoying, and I'm trying not to read or watch too many YouTube videos because I want some surprise still, but the number of actors that they are bringing back to reprise roles. I mean, yes, you have... he plays the Atom. Why can I not remember his name?
Brandon Routh.
Brandon Routh is also
but
playing
he's coming back
Superman.
and reprising a Superman role.
But they're also introducing new characters like the Ryan Choi Atom. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you watch it. If you get a chance, I say read it. I think the main goal is, and what everybody's hoping for, is that just like the comic books, where it brought all of the continuities together and cleaned up a lot of the confusion, is that the TV shows will also consolidate into one, and Supergirl will no longer be on a separate Earth.
I think Supergirl's
Black
finally going to
Lightning
be
might
joining
not be on a separate Earth anymore. So that's kind of what we're hoping for too.
And have fun.
Have fun. Just enjoy it. And either which way, we love superheroes. We know you do too. Thank you for joining us on the Red Web. And we hope to bring you more entertainment and more fun behind the scenes drama of the comic book world later. Thanks again.
Okay. You know, we still have some time.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, we hear it.